Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Trevor Noah, he'll have a new special on Netflix November 22nd. This one's titled I Wish You Would. It's his third Netflix release. The others are called Afraid of the Dark and Son of Patricia. In I Wish You Would, Trevor Noah will share hilarious revelations about learning to speak German, modern communication, and his love of curry. The Laugh Button had an editorial. The headline, Trevor Noah couldn't fill Jon Stewart's shoes, and it's wrong to think he needed to. They wrote, there's the elephant in the room. Under Jon Stewart, The Daily Show was at its peak in ratings and cultural influence. Trevor Noah's tenure started out well, but soon saw a serious drop in viewership and perhaps more stinging cultural relevance. Granted, Trevor Noah oversaw a shift to more of an online presence where it did well. There's an entire spiderweb of issues that probably factored into the decline in ratings. Trevor Noah's different comedy style attempting to reach a larger international audience, the focus towards online COVID, cord cutters, and the shakeup of executives behind the scenes at Comedy Central. But there's more going on here. The reality is the show peaked under the tutelage of previous host Jon Stewart, and in many ways, Trevor Noah was destined to fail. He was simply too late. When Jon Stewart emerged on the scene, his style of parody and comedy was perfectly matched by the foil that was the 24-hour news. But with his astronomical success came copycats of the format. In fact, late night is littered with comedians who literally came up under Jon Stewart. Stephen Colbert, CBS, Samantha Bee, TBS, John Oliver, HBO. By the time Trevor Noah took over the market, it was saturated. Not the worst take. Headlines a little loaded, but not the worst take. I think as much as a shadow Jon Stewart cast, I think the double shadow of Stewart and Trevor is going to be really tough for the next host. Will the next host be Roy Wood Jr.? We'll find out. He was on the Last Laugh podcast. He was asked when he found out that Trevor was leaving, and he said, I found out when you all found out. Roy Wood wasn't at the taping of the show that day because he was at the News and Documentary Emmy Awards ceremony. He went upstairs to use the bathroom, and news popped up on his phone, and he said the steam was still coming off the article fresh out of the oven, and I'm like, what the F is going on? So I find out Trevor's leaving. 10 minutes later, I find out I don't win an Emmy, and then I'm just sitting. No one else in the room had cell service, so I felt like I was the only person in the room who knows the asteroid is coming. The next week on the show, Roy Wood Jr. jokingly confronted Trevor and said, you didn't have to drag my name into it. Now everybody's on my Twitter yelling at me thinking it's my fault that you decided to leave the show. Does Roy Wood Jr. want to host The Daily Show? He says, I think if you're asked, you have to at least consider it. You can't say no to an opportunity like that. You can't turn your nose up it, at least. I think you have to sit and assess what you want to do creatively, and that's something I haven't thought about yet. How would I design the car? Would I put a front wing on it? Would I put some Fast and Furious neon lights on? Would I tint the windows? And then figuring out creatively if it makes sense, because I think beyond The Daily Show, there's a bigger discussion to be had about what the F the next iteration of late night's going to be. I think this is bigger than Trevor Noah. I think we're at a creative molting as an industry. Whatever the next shows are within the world of political satire across whatever networks, you've got to figure out a way to use humor as a bridge. And then he adds, but then you try that and you book Kanye and you have to not release the episode because he was wilding. Late night's interesting, right? I do the jokes most of the time at the top of the show here. There was nothing last week. That's why I didn't do it. I'm old, so I grew up on Letterman, which means I caught the tail end of Johnny Carson. Even I, super Letterman fan, had stopped watching Dave by, 2-3 years into the CBS run. I just found that CBS Letterman was establishment Letterman and didn't have that 12:30 vibe that I loved so much. I never really watched Conan while he was on. I watched clips and enjoy them, and I feel very favorable towards Conan and everything he did, but I never really watched it. Daily Show with Stewart, I dove in and out, and I watched a few episodes of Trevor out of curiosity, but as much as I would say I love late night, I don't really watch it. I don't know if I've ever watched a full episode of Jimmy Kimmel. I don't think so. And if you ask me, I would say he's my favorite of the current late night shows, and I don't even watch them. So what do you do from here? I don't know. They record these things at 5:30. Do you just put them up on Netflix or whatever streamer and release them at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night? I might actually watch it then, or at least skim through it. Amy Schumer was on the red carpet for the season 5 premiere of Inside Amy Schumer. She spoke with People about missing her 3-year-old son, Gene, when she's out on tour. Amy said, I just want to be with him as much as I can. I'm very grateful to be able to work and have time for myself also. But it's brutal. It hurts. I mean, there's no way. It's a painful thing. She joked that she was as surprised as anybody that she had maternal instincts. But gosh, all the cliches are true. What they say about babies, I'm crazy about him. Hey, did you hear Taylor Swift put out a new album? Yeah, you barely hear about that. It's called Midnights. So I was watching football on Thursday night, and they were building up some extra hype for the album because Taylor Swift needs help on the publicity front. So she had this teaser video, and apparently by now you've seen some sort of short film related to Midnights. In that short film, Mike Birbiglia. At the time of this recording, believe me, I have been Googling Mike Birbiglia Taylor Swift to find out more about how this happened. Don't have that information yet, but didn't see that one coming. From page 6, Andy Dick was arrested for allegedly stealing power tools. Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office jail records, say that 3 times fast, reveal that Andy Dick, 56 years old now, was arrested on October 13th. Bail was set at $50,000. He was charged with first-degree residential burglary. He pleaded not guilty. The Santa Barbara PD says they received a dispatch call reporting a burglary in progress. Upon arrival, the homeowner informed officers that they didn't know Andy Dick and he didn't have permission to be on the property. Andy Dick's lawyer, the public defender, Brian Mathis, said he's confident additional facts will come to light supporting Andy Dick as this case moves forward. I am recording this on Friday. If new information came to light over the weekend, I will share it with you tomorrow. Financial Times had that great article, What Makes Good Comedy Today? Subheadline, as debate over cancel culture rages, the New York comedy scene grapples with the line between provocation and offense. They focused in on comedian Mahidi Drummond. On stage, Drummond said, I hate when white people virtue shame black people for not getting vaccinated because it's easier to let the government put a needle in your arm when you didn't grow up with your grandparents talking about the Tuskegee syphilis experiment. But I knew that stuff was real, so I tried to tell my guys in the hood the benefits of getting vaccinated. I know how to speak to black people. You got to tell us what we're getting out of it. The crowd focused in. They were waiting. I'd be like, family, it's crazy. Ever since I got vaccinated, mosquitoes don't bite me no more. Gets a really good laugh. It's wild. Ever since I got vaccinated, anytime I want to charge my phone, I just lay that stuff on my chest. That is a good joke. Probably told way better than I just did it. And you could delete the word probably from that sentence. Drummond says what makes something funny today could depend on how you were raised. He says for him and his friend group of mostly black, blue-collar straight men, joking is affectionate. He works at a warehouse to support his stand-up career. And when you're in a warehouse or digging a ditch with guys, we're all making fun of each other all day. It's just what you do. We joke about each other's mothers and then walk down the street skipping and whistling. So it's an interesting question. How do we joke with people and let them know we're not against them? Let me jump in there. I worked at WOR Radio for almost the entire 1990s, and I will talk with former coworkers who I'm still friends with about some of the stuff we said to each other in the hallways as 20-somethings back in 1994 or so. If they had modern style HR back then, wow, we would all be in trouble. And nobody was hurt, nobody was offended, we all got along, we're all still friends. Drummond says he's not surprised to see Chappelle be defensive about his comedy. I've never been a big Chappelle fan, and I can't speak for him, but he interprets it as generational and historical. You have to understand, black people, we were never able to draw our line. We just had to accept every joke. Quoting Drummond, black lips, black face, caricatures of us from the 30s and 40s. Drummond doesn't punch down. He sticks with jokes about his community and things he knows best. Comedy to him is about context. The room matters. He says Harlem is different from the village, and his words matter too. My mother was a librarian. I grew up around a lot of books. Your joke has to be worded correctly. It's a thin line, and you've got to say it right. From Savannah Now, 5 hilarious comedians have been called together to combine their Mighty Morphin comic chops into one towering megazord with a mic. Love that sentence. That's right, it's the Black Power Rangers Comedy Tour. How much fun is that? Willis Maxwell Jr. is a comedian. He put the tour together. He said, I've never put together a tour before. Basically, I wanted to get on the road, go to different places, but I also wanted to create the lineup that I never got to be invited on. When we produce shows in North Carolina, lineup might have 1 or 2 people of color, max, and I've known so many talented black comics in North Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, just all over. I wanted to put together my dream lineup. The lineup includes Jared Fortune. Jared said, there wasn't much around when we were coming up. By the time I showed up in the Wilmington scene, Willis was already 3 or 4 years in. I'm brand new to it, and immediately I only see 3 other black people. That's it. Thank God we all stood out on our own. The rest of the crew, Brandy Roberts from Raleigh, Cordero Wilson, based out of New York City, but grew up in North Carolina and is a self-described, quote, biracial nerd, and Savannah's own Deshaun Mason. As for the name, Maxwell said, we needed a name, and I wanted the name to emphasize the strength of us producing the shows ourselves with an all-black lineup. It shouldn't be a novelty, but it kind of is. I wanted the theme to be about Black Power, so I was running in my head over and over again. I just hit on Black Power Rangers. It kind of fits. It's an intersection of what we're doing, the notion of us doing the show together, but it's also a very specific pop culture reference that we all share for our age group and for our subculture. That sounds like a good time. I wish that tour nothing but the best. And that is your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I'm pushing the YouTube channel a little bit, so if YouTube is your thing and you want audio only, there's no video. It's just I take this audio and you see like a little waveform. That's what you're getting, but that's up on YouTube Daily Comedy News. One of the ways you can support the show is you can become a premium subscriber via Apple Podcasts. So you can either do $5 a month or you can subscribe for the year. So what does that get you? It gets you the episodes ad-free and early releases. During the week, you'll usually get, quote-unquote, tomorrow's episode around 4 p.m., the weekend, I usually record in advance and just release those on Friday morning. So, for example, the Tuesday episode will probably show up in your feed for a premium subscriber around 4 p.m. Eastern today, give or take how my day goes. You could try that out for free for a month, and if you hate it, I'm not offended. Totally get it, but it's one way you can support the show. Another way you can support the show is you can go to buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. You can throw any amount in the tip jar. Recommended amount, a nice simple $5. I take your $5. I go to the National Donuts chain. I order a large iced coffee with caramel and milk, and you pay for it. And everybody wins. Appreciate it. See you tomorrow.